Hello and welcome back. It's the 2nd of September and it's episode 67 of Thursdays with Charlie. Really glad that we can continue doing this. Want to thank everybody for your generosity this past weekend. The United States Conference of Catholic Bishops asked each diocese to ask each of their parishes to take up a collection for relief work in Haiti, devastated by those earthquakes a couple of weeks ago. And I'm proud to report that we added up what was given to us, just freely given in that little basket in the church and over at the Riverside, were over $1,300 that was donated in that one weekend. So we're very grateful, and that money will go up to the Diocese of Las Vegas to be given to the National Conference of Catholic Bishops to be funneled with all the other donations from our country to work and relief work in Haiti. And thank you so much for your generosity. Well, Operation Enduring Freedom, which I spoke about over the weekend, came to an official end at 3:29 p.m. Eastern Time on Monday, August the 30th, 2021. That would have been 12:29 p.m. here in Nevada. Millions of dollars of state-of-the-art military equipment, and I mean millions of dollars, Humvees and rifles and guns and planes and tanks and all sorts of helicopters were left there, so the Taliban will be a very well-equipped force. And unfortunately, hundreds of Americans, some estimates go as far as more than 1,000 Americans, were left behind also. And that's very sad. Many of our Afghan allies as well, and that numbers is in the thousands. I thought it would be a good time with that in mind and all we've gone through recently to remind everybody that no prayer is ever wasted. Nearly 40 people gathered with us in church on Tuesday of this week for our 8 o'clock Mass, where we prayed specifically for the people affected by the ending of Operation Enduring Freedom, the Americans left over in Afghanistan, and our Afghan allies. More than 40 people gathered here with us for Mass on Tuesday morning. It's interesting, during the COVID virus, that was one of the hardest things, that we couldn't gather people together. We couldn't bring them together. I don't think I'll ever forget Easter of 2020 when we were allowed only 10 people to be in the church for Easter Sunday. That was a horrible memory to have, but it reminded us very strongly of just how much we need as a church to be together, to come together in times of need. And then on Monday, we received word from the diocese that we should be sure to include Bishop Joseph Pepe, our former bishop, in our prayers on Tuesday. And so it was nice that we had an extra gathering of people there. He apparently was having surgery on Tuesday morning, and so we were going to pray. We did pray for his recovery from the surgery and for whatever rehab is necessary. They didn't tell us what exactly he was having the surgery for, but he is in advanced years of age, and we do want to remember him. He has been to Laughlin several times as our bishop, and so we were glad to remember him and keep him in our prayers. From the very beginning of our nation, on the 4th of July in 1776, we've always had recourse to God as our source of national salvation and strength and unity. Prayers for divine guidance, prayers for the protection of those in our country have been present throughout our history. And I think it's an important part of the American fabric of life to remember that we depend on God and that we invoke His blessings for all of us at time of war, in time of peace, in time of rioting, in time of civil unrest, as well as in times of domestic tranquility. And most of these prayers have been offered many times on behalf of the protection of our military forces, both at home and abroad and around the world. We strongly, strenuously hope that God will let His grace flow to us and always be with us. And we pray that that will always be a part of our American way of life, that we go to God. We know that we need God. He's the source of our rights. That's why they're called unalienable. They can't be taken away from us. No prayer is ever wasted. All lives matter, and all lives are important from conception until natural death, and actually even beyond natural death, from time into eternity. So be strong and be prayerful, people, and be confident of the value of the prayers that we pray today and every day. No prayer is ever wasted. No time ever spent in prayer is ever wasted. More things have been accomplished by faithful prayer. More lives have been changed for the better by faithful prayer than any of us could possibly imagine. Actually, more than any of us could possibly hope for. Some prayer intentions that I think we can all share as Catholics and as Americans are what I'd like to put before us today. Just think about these and maybe incorporate one or several of them in your own prayer lives, because I think they're important and they're shared prayers that all of us can share in. Of course, we have our own specific prayers, the people and things that we pray for diligently because they're so important to us as individuals and as families. But I think these are generic, general intentions that all of us can share in. And so for the safety and protection of all those in the dangerous business of law enforcement at all its levels, from the local police on up through national sources of law and order, we pray to the Lord for their safety and protection. And for wise and intelligent leaders who apply the law fairly and impartially to all, and for all those who guide the policies of our great American nation, in big things as well as in small things, we pray to the Lord. For an end to the evil of abortion in our United States of America, and for a renewed respect for life from the moment of conception, we pray to the Lord. For the safety and protection of our American citizens at home and throughout the world, wherever they may be, we pray to the Lord. For relief from the ravages of the wildfires that have plagued especially the western part of our nation, relief from other natural disasters such as the hurricane that affected New Orleans this past weekend, for the blessing of rain in our own area and in other areas of our country that need it so badly, we pray to the Lord. And for all of the males and females created in the image and likeness of God, that they would find strength and joy and satisfaction in their lives on earth and find eternal happiness with God in heaven. For this we pray to the Lord. Again, I repeat a good thought for this week. No prayer is ever wasted. All time spent in prayer is valuable and is good. Take that to heart. People have been asking, and they've been enjoying, which I'm really glad to hear, these Thursdays with Charlie shows, and this is episode 67. People have been asking, do we plan to continue? And I'd just like to give you my thoughts on that. My plan is that we're definitely going to continue through 100 shows. So that's another 33, at least in our planning. I think at the end of 100 shows, we'll take a look at it and see if we want to make any changes in format, if we want to keep going at the weekly schedule that we are. But for the foreseeable future, for at least the next 33 weeks, I'm looking for getting to show number 100. And that's what I'm hoping for. And some of you might recall that the show I did last week was on my problems and opportunities and casualties even in the kitchen over the course of my life. And it's kind of nice for me to know that people watch the show and pay attention to it. And I know that because of comments I get over the weekend after the Thursday show. And so, for instance, after the show on my haphazard conditions in the kitchen and things that have happened over the years of my life relating to food and kitchen appliances, on Saturday night I was bemoaning the fact that somebody had given me some frozen chicken pot pies. And I decided that I would make one in the microwave. And I put the pot pie into the microwave, and I made sure it did not have an aluminum pan on it, so I was careful of that. But when I took it out, I was kind of disappointed because the crust was real soft and mushy, and I guess the microwave just doesn't brown things like an oven would. And so I had commented that it was not as good as I would have hoped it would have been because of the softness and mushiness of the crust. And someone who was there for the 4 o'clock Mass said, "Oh, I'll have to buy you a kitchen torch. And that way you can torch the top of things like pot pies and brown them." And without skipping a beat, another person who was overhearing it and who had obviously seen my Thursday's show just looked and said, "No, I wouldn't give him anything to do with fire that has to go into the kitchen. It's just too dangerous." Well, I thought that was kind of a cute comment, and on Sunday morning, I was getting ready for the 8 o'clock Mass at church, and a couple walks in, and they're still outside the church, and the woman comes up to me and says, "Oh, I saw your show on Thursday, and I just wanted to tell you that, when it comes time for me to pass on, and I'm dying in my bed at home, and my husband calls you to come over to my house to anoint me, to give me last rites," she said. I said, "Yes." And she said, "Well, when that happens, don't go into my kitchen. Just come straight into the bedroom. It'll be safer for all of us that way." So now I know that people really do watch the shows, and I enjoy it. I want you to know I enjoy getting ready for these every week, and I'm glad that people enjoy watching them. It's a great outlet, and I think it's a great way to get to know one another through these stories of our lives. Everybody has stories. I get to tell mine a little more publicly than most people, but everybody has stories to share. I'm also working on a show that we'll do in a couple of weeks. The show relates to pets I have had down through the years. I was amazed. I started making a list of the pets that I have had, and when I passed a dozen, I realized, my gosh, I actually have had animals around me for so much of my life growing up. And so I'll be planning to do a show. I'm trying right now to find some pictures of these pets from throughout my lifetimes. Well, one of the nice stories from my life from this past weekend is on Sunday, after the Masses on Sunday at the church and at the Riverside, a couple of our parishioners decided to take me out to the Great American Pizza in Golden Valley. Now, we had tried to go there before, and unfortunately we got there on a Tuesday, I believe, and the place is not open on Monday, Tuesday, or Wednesday. They use that time to get ready for the really busy season they have on weekends. Now, I've heard the name, and I've actually been on the property because when we got there that Tuesday, they weren't open. So going back there on Sunday for dinner was a really exciting thing for me. Getting inside, I believe it is the most patriotic restaurant I have ever been in my life. You can't miss it driving along the highway through Golden Valley. They have 3 huge container trailers on the side, painted red, white, and blue, with all sorts of American symbols on them. But when you go into the restaurant, the Great American Pizza, you find that they have all sorts of patriotic decorations. They're very good to veterans. All firefighters, all police get a free beverage. So I enjoyed my wonderful iced tea for free. It was a part of the experience of going there. I got to meet the owners, and I got to meet the parents of the owners, and I got to meet the children of the owners. It's a family affair. And on the wall, there's huge decoration. There's a copy of our Declaration of Independence. There's a copy of the Constitution what's there. There's a lot of things dedicated to President Donald Trump, and they're throughout the restaurant and even on the tables. There's a mural of Washington crossing the Delaware, certainly a picture known to me very much from my time in New Jersey, but I don't think I have ever seen a larger copy of it than I saw at Great American Pizza. There are flags on the wall hanging in decorations. There are all sorts of things, plus the fact that the pizza is really wonderful. They have other things. They have salads and calzones and sandwiches, but we had pizza, and all the pizzas have specific patriotic names. So I wanted a vegetarian pizza with all the vegetables on it. Well, that's a Susan B. Anthony. And so I had a Susan B. Anthony pizza with a wonderful crust and even artichokes, big, beautiful artichokes and pieces of tomato and peppers and onions and mushrooms and all sorts of things like that on the top of it. People who were with me had a ham and pineapple pizza, or a pizza with all sorts of meat as well as vegetables. That's a Second Amendment pizza. And so we got to enjoy the names as well as thing. Their menu is really huge. It's amazing to go through, and it's got a lot of things on it. I'm definitely going back there for more items. And even their pizza boxes are patriotic. Over there, the Great American Pizza. And on the side of their box, we have God bless America, as well as other patriotic sayings. It's a wonderful experience. And in addition to pizza and the sandwiches, plus the people being so really nice and so good to veterans and firefighters and police and so patriotic, I picked up a box of their homemade peanut brittle. Now, I love peanut brittle, and peanut brittle is such a wonderful treat in life. And the mother of the owner makes this peanut brittle every week, homemade. And she said she had made about 40 pounds of this peanut brittle for this past week. And I bought the last box. Actually, I'd say that. I didn't buy it. My friends bought it for me. So I got treated to the peanut brittle. And it is really wonderful. It's the type of peanut brittle that melts in your mouth. And so that you're enjoying this wonderful sugary taste, and then it dissipates and you're crunching on the wonderful peanuts inside. Really good batch of peanut brittle. So I recommend the place highly. Great American Pizza in Golden Valley, Arizona. And then Sunday continued to be a wonderful thing. We continued up Route 93 into Las Vegas on Sunday afternoon, late afternoon and evening. And we went to the Mirage Hotel and Casino on the Strip. I haven't been up there in a while. Went in there and started playing a machine that had dragons on it. That's all I know. And for some reason, it kept letting me win. And so I kept playing it. And I got the little bonus round about 7 times while I'm just sitting there for a little while. So I came home with $100+ more than I brought up, which was even a nice treat. And the reason we went to the Mirage was we were going to see a famous magician, Shin Lim. He had won America's Got Talent a few years ago. He's also a first-place winner of a magic competition called FISM, which is very famous in the magic world. He's of Chinese descent and was born in Vancouver in Canada. He does amazing close-up magic, which they then project onto these huge screens, so even I could see it from my place in the audience very, very easily. And he performs to beautiful classical piano music. He said that when he was growing up, his first thought was to become a classical pianist. And then he developed a carpal tunnel disease in his wrist, and he wasn't able to continue with both the magic and the classical piano. So he went towards the magic, and he really puts on an amazing magic show. And in addition to him, he has a mentalist, kind of a comic magician mentalist by the name of Colin Cloud, whom I had never heard of, but whom I got to see on Sunday night along with Shin Lim, and he was amazing as well. Now, I don't know if most people know this, but ever since I can remember, I have kept a list of magicians that I have seen. It is now, you can see how small that type is, it is now 4 pages long. And so I was able to add these two new magicians, Colin Cloud and Shin Lim, to that list, and they got numbers 352 and 353. That means that as of this past weekend, I have actually sat in the audience and seen a live performance by 353 different magicians in the course of my life. It's kind of interesting that I even give all the magicians a number when I see them, and I try to write down the date on which I saw them, and so I can go back for years and years and remember who I have seen first. Keep the list in alphabetical order. In fact, even one of our parishioners ended up on my list because he was able to do some wonderful magic for me, and so he's affectionately known as number 255. That's his number on my list. And so my list gets updated every time I go to a magic show. I have one funny story about the list. When Steve Wyrick, who's a really well-known magician from Texas, was opening a show in Las Vegas a number of years ago, he was building a theater specifically for his show. And a good friend of mine is also a friend of Steve Wyrick's. I had not at the time met Steve yet, although I had seen his show in other places along the years. And so my friend says, I'll set it up for you when you're in Vegas to go and meet up with Steve and see the theater he's building. And so he did. And I got there, and I got the impression originally that Steve was doing this because he was good friends with my friend. And yeah, he would come and let the priest come and see the theater he was building. And that was going to be it. He'd walk me through and then walk me out. Well, Steve and I got talking as I'm looking at the theater being built and the positioning of things and how it was going to be. And we ended up spending a long time together, which was really, really nice. And I really enjoyed his company. And then I put together a list of things that I thought would be a nice addition to the way he was setting things up. And I emailed it to him. I had gotten his email address when we were talking. And the funny thing that happened after I did that is Steve called his friend who had set up the meeting with me and said, I just met Charlie, and I know he's not a magician, he's a priest, and we had a good time talking, but he just sent me a couple of pages of things about magic shows, and I don't know whether I should pay any attention to this. And to my credit, my friend said to him, Charlie has seen more magicians than you'll ever see. If he says something about your show, I would listen to him. It was a nice compliment, and Steve and I are friends to this day. Well, that's enough about my week. It's time for Pascal to come down and join us. And I thought, since we've been talking about magic a little bit here, Respice ad magicam in Vita. Look for the magic in life. Look for the things that are magical and thrill you in life. They're there. Life is worth living, as Fulton Sheen would always say, and life is magical. God bless you, and have a wonderful week.